Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a Flesh and Blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to...
It was the most enthusiastic opener we've ever had. We had an amazing weekend. This is going to be a banger show, and you opened like me.
This is exhaustion talking.
This was you opening like you had the enthusiasm of one charmer, and I just couldn't even make it through. That was the least enthusiastic I've ever seen you.
It was deep breaths. And like, okay, if I just need to get started, it's like, the hardest part about working out is putting on your shoes. I'm trying to put on the fucking shoes.
Yeah. So this is how you know it's going to be a banger show, because we are already derailed in the intro.
Shit. Okay. Welcome to episode 78 of Flesh and Pod. I am Logan. I am your host. With me, as always, is Darick. I want to point out something here. This is very important. I drove back from Pittsburgh today. I left this morning. Darick Oswald was still asleep on a couch in an Airbnb when there's a perfectly good bedroom open. When I left this morning, I got back home at like 6 p.m., give or take, and had to like do stuff at home, had to like accommodate for my life and getting things back together and shit like that. And I am still right here in this chair to make sure that the fappers are getting what they need. So I just want to say that my refractory period is remarkable.
I would like you to know that it was only like an hour and a half after you left that I left. And then I also drove home today. And then I like hung out with my family. I even played with my kids in the yard. So I've had a busy day. And
it's not 11 and a half hours for you to get home in a car.
No, it was 6, but still. I fall asleep when I'm driving, so there's a little bit of danger involved. And B, if you believe a group of liars, there might be other danger involved with me driving. But
I don't think we're a group of liars.
I would not trust them. I would trust the one sober person in that car. That's all I'm saying.
I'm saying that maybe your sobriety should have been in question, and your driving caused me to sober up in case I needed to take the wheel. So
it was fine. You guys act like I was on the curb or I hit rumble strips or anything. I missed one turn, and it's in Pittsburgh, so one turn is like
one turn
20 minutes 44
more. Yeah, right. It's a 40-minute detour.
Like that's not my fault. That's Pittsburgh's fault. All I'm saying, I missed one turn, and suddenly I'm like off-roading or something. They treat me like I'm a crash test dummy, but no,
they're taller than you.
Listen, one of us bottomed out a car, and the other is me, the unsafe driver, supposedly. So, facts.
My new car sits lower, and I had to drive over a curb to get into the parking for this Airbnb. So, yes, my car bottomed out. And then I started parking in the street, so I didn't have that issue anymore. And remarkably, because Pittsburgh's a fairly safe city, so I guess it's not that remarkable, my car did not get stolen. So, win-win. It's so we're just gonna kind of
get on them. Maybe
we're gonna.
I know we need to talk about what we did in Flesh and Blood this week.
Yeah, which is What Darick? What did you do in Flesh and Blood?
I'm very glad that you asked. I didn't do anything at all whatsoever. Not one Flesh and Blood related activity. No, of course. I went to the outstanding event, which was the Brawl in Pittsburgh, presented by The Realm and Green Tree Sports Cards. Or is it just sports? I thought it was sports cards.
It's sports cards.
Yeah. But I feel like I want to just say Green Tree because I don't want to give people the wrong impression. Obviously, if you're listening to this broadcast, they do more than sports cards because they do Flesh and Blood. This is a Flesh and Blood podcast, but still.
Allegedly.
They definitely do. Yeah, allegedly. They definitely do a lot more than sports cards. But anyway, this was a fantastic event. Everybody that I talked to had a wonderful time. I felt like The Realm, as they've been doing every time they do one of these, they stepped up the production quite a bit. I felt like Flake, myself, and Brendan all had a great round of casting. Shout out to Brendan, who was sick through part of it and did a phenomenal job. We also got Sam in the seat a few times. He also did some interviews for us. Sam of the 3 Floating fame. So again, thank you so much for your help. You were phenomenal as well. But yeah, I mean, it started. There's a little bit of technical issues at the beginning, so I was rough. But once I fell into my groove, I felt like we did great. Blake and I were having a blast on the second day. We had great games, even though it was an Oldham mirror in the finals. The reality is, I felt like it was actually a good finals match. Like, I remember being kind of excited about how that went, and everybody that we talked to for interviews. So the other really cool thing we did from a production standpoint, if you have not yet watched it, maybe you say attended the event and you haven't watched the VOD yet, I highly recommend checking out the Realm Twitter, because Brendan was interviewing players in the field and then posting that on their Twitter. So he interviewed the likes of like Michael Fang, Brody Spurlock, Tommy Dong, aka Tommy Hendricks, who was
Tommy
playing
Fresh.
Riptide. Yeah, Tommy Fresh, aka Meat Cello. But I just am saying there's a lot of really good content that came out of this event, and everybody had a blast. We got to meet a lot of people from the community, a lot of the same people that we have seen over and over again. So again, it's wonderful seeing you all. But I'm talking about the likes of like Dr. Arun Babe and her husband came out. They were giving away these really cool like cutting boards and koozies. I know that she had posted about it ahead of time on Twitter, but both her and her husband were wonderful to talk to. And yeah, I mean, it was just overall a really solid event. And every time I go into these, I say to myself, like, there's no way it gets like better than the last time, or, you know, there's no way that we can top it. But I feel like every time I go, I'm surprised by something. I won't necessarily say that like one is better than the other, but I will say that I'm surprised every time that we go. The Speakeasy location was also great, a lot of space, enough like different games for everybody, good food, good vibes. Just again, I know I should just expect it now, but it's just such a wonderful experience that every time I go in, I'm somehow still impressed.
Yeah, that's so, you know, as most people who listen to the show understand that Darick basically is most of the time sounds like Eeyore. And right now he sounds 100% energized and jacked and ready to go, even though he's, you know, still feeling a little fatigued because of...
I can flex one of these arms.
Fucking yes, you can. So much. There you go, that one. And so, but this was like, folks, this was him all weekend.
Wait,
like,
I also need you to know. I need you to know, if you're listening, Jordan, it's not because I am doing what you tried to do all weekend. I will say that this is just legitimate energy. But I also was very happy to see Jordan. So longtime listeners of the show, Jordan was there, and part of the reason I was so jacked all weekend is he has the most infectious laugh of almost any human being I know, and so I spent my entire weekend purposefully trying to make him laugh, and I feel like I did a pretty good job. I had some
you were doing great
weekend, so that just fueled me.
Yeah, that was one of the things that on the car ride home, Dagan brought up. He's like, "What the fuck was up with Charmer? He was just daggers all fucking weekend." And I'm like, "Yeah, he was on one. Like, he definitely was gunning for Jordan to just start the chuckle, because that would just, it just turns into a groove and a vibe all at the same time. It's just one of the best things ever." But yeah, we had an absolute blast. I actually played in the event.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, I was the only Briar in the field.
Only Briar.
Just me.
So sad I didn't get to cast your game, but
so here's the thing. Knowing full well that I was going to get dumpstered by Rangers, I still walked in and played Briar, and I only lost to Rangers. I lost 3 matches, all to Ranger. And in all of them were winnable with just, you know, a little bit of one side variance, however, that would go. Congrats to Aladors in our Discord, Jordan Blankenship, on making top 8 of the event. He's the one that knocked me out of top 8 by reading and ledgering me 7 times in one game.
Just casually,
The first one wasn't a problem. The second one was fine. It was the one that he dominated for 13 when I had a Channel Mount Heroic out after I got it to stick around for one turn. But I played it, and then I drew 4 blues. I'm like, great. So pitch to make a rune chant, Autumn's Touch You for 11, right? That's what I'm doing and keeping the channel for another turn. Then he's like, okay, well, 13 dominate a red in the ledger. And I'm looking at my all red hand going, this would have been great. This would have been a blast.
Well, it turns out your hand being red is not nearly as important as the ledger being red. That ledger was not just red, it was crimson.
Dripping. Yeah,
it
was
looked like a crime scene.
It was a crime scene.
It was an Elaine fantasy.
Hammond Tree fantasy. Yeah, it really was.
Murder 1 on the docket.
And so that was very painful, but also just, that's the line. He played straight to it and just got me good. And also Cody Williams, Cody Williams had a hell of a run too, where winds up, that's why I lost you on camera for that match. He wound up making top 4 of the brawl. And then once he got knocked out, ran over to ask if he could register for the Battle Hardened. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, can you build a deck in 3 minutes? And he's like, yes. So they said, sure. And then he went and lost in the finals of the Battle Hardened.
Yeah.
Like, that's a run.
He was feeling it all weekend. Absolutely. Speaking of the brawl, we also do need to give the shout outs, right? Isaac Crute was your winner. If again, you did not event or didn't get to catch the coverage, played phenomenally, didn't drop a game all day one, was the only undefeated, and then went straight through the top 8 bracket and, clean play throughout. Just congratulations. I really do encourage you, again, I know it's going to sound like a sleeper, but I really do encourage you to go back and watch the Old Him versus Old Him finals, because at its core, I think it was fundamentally one of the coolest Flesh and Blood games that you can watch if you're trying to be better at the game, because it really highlights the importance of breakpoints and pitch stacking and just a bunch of really neat things. So, great for him. We also had Kano in the top 8.
We did. There was a Kano.
Yeah, William Bodo.
Yep.
Well,
love having a Kano. Yeah, it was. And even talking like there was an insanely high quality of player in this event with just like the field itself. I was again talking to Dagan on the drive, and he's like thinking through his battle hard, and he was just like, man, I had to go through the fucking ringer, because he had to play Michael Fang. Yuan Ji Lee, Brody, and Matthew Dilks, all in the Swiss of a Battle Hardened.
Yeah.
Like, and that's even if you're a guy like Dagan, who is, I think, currently sitting top 15 in constructed elo, and I think he's like number 6 in the US in limited. That's a gauntlet. I don't care who you are.
Two of those players made the top 8. Lee and Brody, they were both top 8 of the event. So,
yep. And just, oh my God. It was, again, the quality of player in the room was insane. And it was a blast. I had a lot of fun. I got to play against good friend Rich Gabinski, Polish guy.
Oh yeah.
Twitter. I got to play against him in the Brawl event in a super close game with Dromai, where it was definitely me saying, fuck it, we ball. Definitely played Amulet of Earth out to make sure his Kyloria wouldn't drama card on the turn I needed to not block it. He was very nonplussed. And so, just epically good time. Had a blast, loved it. And, that was, I would love to, again, we talk about this every time, where we end up, give me one more day. One more day at that Airbnb with.
I'm actually gonna go further. I need 2 more days.
2 more days.
One more day of like event shenanigans, and then I also need a day to recuperate, because the thought of me getting up early and driving to the office tomorrow is already killing me.
Oh sure, yeah. I get that too. I'm looking at what Flake just sent, and I'm.
Oh no, not even. I will say, a lot of great references that will eventually make callbacks, but that's not one I'm going to touch.
One of them. Nope, not right now. And so like last night's a good example. We had, Keith, we had Sam and Aiden from 3 Floating, along with Sierra, who is Sam's better half.
Partner in crime.
Definitely a partner in crime. And we had, Dagan White and Charmer and Jordan and Elaine and Flake and myself, and the vibe was just so good. Just talking shit, listening to 90s hip hop, fantasy booking, what our personally tailored concert for us would be, playing some Flip It or Rip It and watching.
Oh yeah,
watching
it was
Aiden almost die.
I was gonna say it was the first time that Aiden and Sam had ever experienced Flip It or Rip It, and let me tell you, Aiden had legitimate tears in his eyes.
It was great.
You could see how empathetic he was to these poor cards that were getting just mangled and destroyed, and what happened was adorable.
I had a cold foil in the pack, and when we knew it was either cold foil or crack bobble. And so there was a three split on the flip and rip on the last turn because we hadn't seen the cold foil yet. And I'm like, okay, pick it. And Aiden is just like, praying that the cold foil doesn't get ripped, and doesn't get ripped, and he gets flipped up, and it's a scale peeler. It's a cold foil scale peeler. He's like, yeah, that's sweet. And I'm like, yeah, and this is what it'd feel like if it got ripped in half and just tore it in half in front of him. And his heart just broke. And that's why I did it. It was like, feel the pain. And then immediately after the pain, he's like, can I do one now? Like,
oh yeah. I mean, we converted them.
They're converted.
That's the right word. Yeah, we corrupted.
It is
them.
corruption.
It was all good fun. The other really, I felt anyway, fun bit about the night was with Aiden. Late, Keith and I were teaching Aiden magic tricks, with a deck of cards, and we were kind of blowing his mind. And then we started talking about how people can potentially cheat in Flesh and Blood, and so here's the things you need to watch for. And he was like, I'd never even thought about any of this stuff, because we were just telling him how to watch for people that are cheating with pitch stacking, things like flipping your sleeves the wrong way, leaving a marker card out. How to watch for people who are deck mechanics, right? So the shuffle that's not a shuffle, right? You can look like you're shuffling and the deck doesn't change, that sort of stuff. So it was a good time. But the magic tricks, man, it was so fun. We would explain to him how a magic trick would work, and then we would do the same thing 3 times more in front of him, and he's like, I don't see it.
Yep. Keith is very, very good at sleight of hand cards. Very good. And he was ruining that child. He's not a child, but I'm 42 and I think he's 22. So child. And it was just amazing to watch. Cause if you've never seen, magic tricks, sleight of hand magic tricks up close, it actually is, it's artistic. And when you see it up close though, you're like, man, I should be seeing where this is a trick and not actually something that's actual magic. And I can't see it when I'm literally 18 inches away. And
it's funny because I know what I'm looking for. Much like Keith, I'm not as good as Keith. Part of it is I have an issue with my hands. But also just in general, I probably don't have near the practice Keith has. And so I'm not as good as Keith, but I went through a time where I didn't go anywhere without at least one deck of cards on me. And that's why I was talking it through with Aiden and kind of whatever. But it was funny because part of the entire magic thing is you have people looking where you want them to look. And so he's doing the tricks for Aiden, and I'm a spectator at a different angle, knowing what to look for. So he'd be halfway through the trick and I would just start laughing because I've seen either, I don't want to ruin it for people at home, but I've seen stuff that it's okay, well, the trick has already happened. And Aiden had no idea, just lost.
Yep. The thing is Keith is such a calming influence with his his vocal mannerisms and stuff that he lulls people when he's doing these tricks. And again, I'm the same way. I'm okay, I'm on a different angle there. Okay, got it. And then but Keith can deliver a prestige so well in a magic trick that you have no option, but you have no real reaction that's real except for just cheering, because it's so good.
Actually, the best thing that I saw all night was we unrehearsed, mind you. This was not something that Keith and I collaborated with ahead of time, but unrehearsed, we collab tricked him where Keith did a trick and the result was Aiden had to pick the 9 of diamonds. So then I had Keith hand me a deck of cards, and then Aiden picked the 9 of diamonds. And then Keith pulled out a completely separate deck, untouched. And he was like, it's weird because obviously we haven't opened this deck all night and there's just one card in here that's facing the wrong way. I wonder what that card is. And it was the 9 of diamonds. Like we were just running it. Oh man,
it was great.
So
I watched
good.
that one. I was laughing my ass off.
Yeah.
Like I was dying. But so special shout out to everybody that made this event as incredibly fun as it was. Everybody in the Green Tree crew, Jeff, John, Matt, that entire group of people, the Realm crew. So you had Aaron and Jake and Ben Mapes and then obviously the Bartrams. The entire judge staff was incredible. Eric, I know that you were kind of the head. You're kind of heading a lot of that stuff up. Thank you very much. I
heard great things about the judges, honestly, and
they're fantastic.
I talked to one of the judges who was like, "This was like my first event of this size," and he was like, "Everyone's been great, and I'm having a blast, and I'm definitely going to sign up for more." And so, to me, that's amazing. Like you love when players have a good time, but you also really like it when judges have such a good time. They want to keep doing it because they're kind of like the unsung heroes of the competitive community. These events don't really happen without judges. And I think cultivating that is just as important as it is cultivating a player base. So I was very excited when I talked to that gentleman and he was like, yeah, this is my first of this, size and whatever. And I'm going to do it again for sure. So.
Yeah. And that's great to hear. Again, everything was put together very well. We didn't have the most room, which is, was probably the only like little bit of downside, but I know there've been some venue issues and changes in organization, stuff like that throughout.
There was that. I felt the location was great. So it was the convention center.
The location was great. Yes. The volleyball tournament was exceptional.
I was just about to say, if you were not somebody who had the opportunity to attend, I will say that the first like 2 floors or whatever, there was a massive volleyball tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, just teams as far as the eye could see at one point, like when you're kind of like walking through to get to where the realm was. Yeah. But when you're walking through, it was just like whistle, 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 like just nonstop. So, that might have contributed to the amount of space we had, but
yeah, honestly, I think that everybody involved with the event did a great job. I know that there was a ton of donations to the free store for that giveaway, and Jeff was ecstatic. I mean, he couldn't have been happier. John was doing all his shtick the entire time, which is John's shtick is also very fun. It's very similar to Keith's shtick, which is always very fun. So he was running out there with these awesome monochrome play mats. I think they only made like 25 or 50 of or whatever it was, and he was like, roll the dice, you call your number, you roll the dice, you hit your number, you get a playmat. And so the most obvious thing in the world happens. For those of you who don't know, and there's a lot of people that are local to me that do listen to the show, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Dagan's getting a lot of run on the show today, but we do have some very high caliber players here in the local area, but we want to make sure that there's something for everybody potentially. The cold foils go to the winner of each armory, but we raffle off the playmats. They're always raffled off, like just dice roll or whatever. No shit. Dagan wins about 75% of those random rolls. So he goes over and John's like, call your number, roll the dice. You hit it, you get a playmat. He picks up easy 4, throws it 4. And then after the next round, an hour later, Dagan's walking by and John just goes, hey, but you can't do it again. Dagan's like, snap, 4, easy 4, and just grabs another one. I'm just like, God fucking damn it. Getting Dagan is it's nationwide, I guess. So that was fun as shit to see. The vibes, the hangs, the good times, they were all wonderful. And again, getting to do things like meet Greg, Darth Prentice, in our Discord on Twitter for the first in person for the first time.
In the flesh and blood.
As it were. And that was spectacular. That man is a pretty fucking man. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, like what
bet he could oh wow.
What's up with the Fresh and Buds crew all being so handsome, and like they had really cool shirts all weekend, like
they were killing
patterns,
like they were dripping, that's for sure.
Yeah, they drip tied apparently is not just a Tommy thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then and so it again, and then running into like a lot of the people that you run into, at these events, and Chris Weidinger, and he's always at the Ohio, always at the Brawls. He does really well. He's an excellent player. May, if you're listening, I did notice you weren't there, and that did upset me. But yeah, it is such a fun vibe the entire time. And if you have a chance to come out to one and have never been to one, please do. The next one, we'll get into where the next one is and everything else a little bit later in the show, but you'll have two more opportunities this year. And if you can make it. It's so worth it. Hashtag no free ads, but it's still like so worth it to just come attend. Even if Elaine was there the entire weekend, did not play any events, just was there to vibe and was great. So that's, it's all part and parcel, man. And so please attend if you have an opportunity to. You'll never feel. It's the welcome. It's the same welcome of the Flesh and Blood community that exists everywhere else too, and just on a different scale with a lot of attention paid specifically to making these events about and for the community. So I had such a good time that my voice is actually dying. It is. I don't have any high register right now, so that's kind of why I sound like I need to be taking Dayquil or some shit. I don't have a cold. Nope, just was laughing so hard all weekend long because of Jordan and Charmer and Flake and Elaine that my throat is just scratchy as all shit.
Yeah, Flakes is pretty wrecked too, but I think that had more to do with the several $1 million dreams he endured. But.
Well, he did spend, like, to set the scene, because we might as well just do all this shit and just be off the rails completely. Charmer and I walk in. We had our Airbnb was a duplex, so we had an upper floor and a lower floor that had a outside staircase that led to one. And Charmer and I walk in. We're like, okay, we know that they're here. Where are they? And so I sent a text to Jordan. Jordan's like, we're upstairs. I'm like, okay, cool. And we just start hearing thuds and yells and more thuds, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And so eventually, after like 20 minutes of this shit, we just go upstairs, and here's Flake attempting to put Elaine in the sharpshooter. He has like a YouTube video up of how to do it. He has smashed her head into a table. He has.
We need to pause here for a minute. I think that's the most disappointing thing.
I was very disappointed.
We
had him fixed
like
10 seconds.
It's not that he hasn't seen RoboCop or The Thing or anything like that. It's that he had to YouTube how to do
the sharpshooter.
He's Canadian. Bret the Hitman Hart is like on their $10 bill, I'm pretty sure. So what's up with that?
I thought it was the 20. Either way,
yeah. Oh, that's right. 10 is the Bieber. My bad.
Is the Bieber. Yep, that's the Bieber. Celine is the 50. Mm-hmm. And Brian Adams is the pence. So like he's trying to throw Elaine in a sharpshooter. We're like, no, you step through, cross, then turn. Oh, like this, and then okay, now he has completed the thing without actually injuring Elaine more. So there was, at least we corrected that piece of it, but that was the kind of just bullshit shenanigans going up all weekend. So yeah, it was entertaining at the very least. I also got to experience something I never thought I would experience. So Elaine and I had gone down to get something to eat because I was hangry and she was hungry. So we get down to Jimmy John's, and it's full of volleyball players. But like, okay, order, and we wait maybe 10, 15 minutes for our food. And as we're eating, we hear the guy go, yo, we out of bread, God. Like, no bread. So no orders for like 10, 15 minutes because we need to get you some bread. And I'm like, did a Jimmy John's just run out of fucking bread?
Yeah.
It's kind of core to what they do. Well, shit. It's like, oh, that's great. And Theo, God bless Theo, is just the next person in line, just waiting. He's like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, that just speaks to how many volleyball players were there. That was a massive event.
Oh, it was. I think it was like a junior nationals or something, because there were 60 courts going. That is so many volleyball courts. But anyway, so that'll put a bow on the Pittsburgh Brawl. Thank you again, everybody that came out. Congrats to the top 8. Congrats to top 8 of the Battle Hardened. Look forward to seeing you all in Columbus in December. So We're going to move on to a little bit of Dust Till Dawn shit here because we've got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, more
the first one-
spoilers.
yeah, I guess it's still spoiler season. I didn't know.
Yeah, I thought that they were taking a break until June or whatever the first announcement said, and then we got more.
Yeah, I mean, I do like this because they're giving these specialization spoilers to noted members of the community for those heroes. I think that's very cool. So we had a Flukenbox did have the chorus of Iron Song to spoil, and this one is I'm kind of medium on this card. Not gonna lie.
This is 100% dependent, in my opinion, on whatever a courage token does.
Yeah, because the rest of the card isn't great, and again, for me, it's so the chorus is it's a warrior attack reaction, Dorinthia specialization. So okay, that makes sense. It's a yellow block 3. Until end of turn, target Dawnblade gets +1 attack, and damage this would deal can't be prevented, so you can't Oasis it or whatever, right? Or you can't do any of that.
I was gonna say can't Crown of Seeds, but well, I guess there is Briar, but
when technically can still because she isn't gone. But then it has Unity. So when you this card defends with a card from hand, together with a card from hand, and create a courage token under any number of heroes' control. So this was interesting to me because one, the card to me does not look the most playable. It's into certain matchups, maybe, but those matchups are kind of gone now. It's called Olden, and this costs 1.
Yeah, it costs 1 for a +1 only.
Yeah, I can get a better effect for 0 on a lot of cards.
Not only that, but a 0 with blue pitch. That's the other thing. This is a yellow pitch. So for me, as the new Uzuri convert, and I'm going to beat that horse to death until LSS deems me the Uzuri guy. I'm going to start making videos this week. We're going all in. But anyway, as the assassin person, I can say, or I compare this to Concealed Blade, right? Concealed Blade is a blue pitch, blocks for 3. It's a +1 attack reaction. And obviously the dagger effect, a little bit different than the prevention. No unity on that. So again, that's where I say, like, to me, this all depends on the courage token. Like, is the courage token going to be worth this being less pitch and have a cost for you to actually play the card? And I don't know.
Yeah, so we've spun our wheels a little bit talking with around the room about what a courage token might be when during the weekend. My thought process was, it's a one-time courage a blade hold thing where it would reduce a weapon attack by 1. Your next weapon attack is reduced by 1. Cost one cost.
Yep, that would make sense.
That would make sense to me. That somebody else pointed out that the tokens that Dawnblade gets are actually referred to as courage tokens, but I'm like, that doesn't make sense because creating a courage token feels like it would be an actual card, like a seismic surge would be, or an eloquence would be.
It also doesn't say place a courage token on
a weapon,
anything.
Right?
It says create a courage token under any number of heroes' control. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this feels like it's going to be a token card.
Right. And so but I mean, honestly, it could be, the courage pops and it adds a counter to a Dawnblade. Like, fine, I guess.
Or actually, so if we're talking about things that could potentially, hear me out, make this worth being a majestic specialization that costs 1 and is only a yellow pitch. What if instead the courage token stayed in play and it said, if your tokens would be removed from Dawnblade, sacrifice this instead?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Suddenly really that is way worth it.
Yeah,
right?
That's wild at that point in time. That's the hell of a card. So that's this card is really, it has to be a courage token has to be worth it. Otherwise this card's not. And as it reads right now, it's not a Shiana card, so I'm out on it. Full stop. Fuck this thing if you can't get played in Shiana. Look, I have a problem. I admit it. I'm not going to seek help.
Fair.
The next one we get is Starstruck. And because of the fact that once I start talking about this card, Charmer is going to have about a priapism, and maybe the blood flow to his head isn't going to be restricted. So I'm going to read this.
I found out about this card mid-broadcast. Brendan Patrick mentioned it to me, and I got so hot and bothered that I started messing up my casting. Live on the broadcast.
Live on the broadcast. So it's actually, the card is kind of bad. It's just Righteous Cleansing.
No, it's not.
I know, I'm fucking with you. Will you stop?
How dare you?
So Starstruck, for one, has amazing art, but this one is crushed, honestly. Pun intended. You are infecting me, and I goddamn hate it.
Yeah, but you and Flake all weekend long, man. I've been in your head. You guys have got the Charmer mind virus.
Ugh, it's the woke Charmer mind virus. Yep, that's what we have.
Yep.
Thank God it's only in the brain. So Starstruck is a yellow pitch, 7 cost, 10 attack, block 3, Bravo specialization. By the way, this is great. Has Crush. When this deals 4 or more damage to a hero, the only attacks they may play or activate during their next turn are attacks with base attack greater than the damage dealt this way. So if you do crush them, immediately anything that is a 4 or less, that is
4 or less.
That is less, that is 4 or less base is off the board.
Yeah, and that's done. Minimum, because for the crush to have activated, you've done 4 anyway. It could be even worse, right? So this is bonkers, and there's more. There's more text on this. I'm going to let you keep going before I lose my mind.
So this also has Unity, as the other specializations did as well. When this defends together with a card from hand, create a Seismic Surge token under any number of heroes' control. Okay, Charmer, go.
All right, this card is bonkers. This is so good for Bravo for so many reasons. First, the crush text. This is very reductively just a Crush the Week on steroids. Now, I say reductively because Crush the Week is the set value of 3 or less. But also, the big key difference here with this is that it says attacks cannot be played or activated. So this hits weapons, too. There's not a lot of weapons that have a base value of more than 4. Now, there are some. Shout out to Rock, right? But there are not a lot of weapons that have a base of 4 or more. You know what definitely does not have a base of 4 or more? Bows.
They sure don't.
They sure don't. So you can't activate bows once this bad boy crushes. That is way better than Crush the Week, right? The text on this is absurd. And again, if you do more damage, then all of the sudden you can turn off cards like, Enlightened Strike, for example, unless they go full 7, right? There's not going to be this, 0-5 base. Go again, like base. Oh, that's right. It's base. So you can't even go 7 because it won't fire. There's so much here. And now the key thing here, 10 damage. So if you dominate this, right now it costs 7, so it's going to be a very similar play pattern to your Crippling Crushes, right? 3 blues, dominate, play this. Let's just say they don't have the D-React, right? And it's a standard, you get your class block, you block 3. That's a 7. I can't think of very many classes outside of like Brute or other Guardians, right? More Bravo Mirrors or whatever, that are going to be able to attack through that if that goes off, right? Brute's got some 8 and things like that. Obviously, we're staring at one with Bravo, so Bravo we know has them, but that's Time Walk with damage attached to it. That is absurd. The Unity is also very, very relevant. And the reason for that is because a lot of times when you get into the like nitty gritty parts of the game, both players are sub 10 health. You're starting to have hands where you're like blocking with 2 cards, and then usually you're trying to set up like an Anothos or something. And this card sets you up for like the better Anothos turn, because what you can do with this is you can block with Starstruck. and then some other card, you get your Seismic Surge, and then you can pitch a blue and go with like a red Chokeslam, for example. So you're threatening the 8 instead of 6. So the Seismic Surge, while it seems kind of like a consolation, it's actually incredibly relevant for a lot of the play patterns. This also allows... All right, well, if you're listening and I cut out mid whatever, I don't know how it's going to end up in the editing, but I crushed my internet. That's how good Starstruck is, right? It's got such relevant text that it will even destroy podcasts. My internet dropped out mid rant. I don't even remember what I was saying. My point is this, right? You're
talking about fucking bows, and you were
crushing
talking
bows,
about
play patterns. I think is where it dropped off. At least it appeared on mine,
Reinaring.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, there was the Reiner thing, but I was talking about play patterns on the Unity portion as well. It's really important because it allows you to set up choke slams and other things that you wouldn't normally be able to, or you can even set up, if you've got like Crippling Crush in the arsenal, this is where I was starting to go. Crippling Crush in the arsenal means that you can still block with 2 cards and play it. Now, you don't get the dominate, but you could still do it. Or if you have a second Starstruck, same thing. So being able to play these big 7-cost attacks off of just 2 blues without having activated plating before, without having like a Tunic token, you can just block with 2 cards, get your Surge, and then come in with a really big swing back. Huge way to swing tempo at those nitty gritty parts of the game. So that's where I was going. This card is bonkers.
Yeah. So I look at this, and the first things I think of are, one, blocking with 2 of these is insanely fun to make 2 surges. Yep. The other thing that I look at this and go is like, okay, so block early, remembrance them back type shit. Like they wind up in that sort of game plan as well. And the last thing is, I mean, this is cool, but is it just better for Shiana?
No, because Shiana can't dominate
yellow.
That's the only, literally the yellow part matters and whatever. But the only thing I would say is that she can't dominate it, and I think the dominate's really important for the crush effect. She loves the Unity part, I think. Like,
oh yeah,
I think there's a lot going on there for other fun specializations. Overall, the other thing that I really like about this as well is I can't help but again keep bringing up the fact that we're getting a prism back here at some point. This is absolutely a popper, like you would expect most Guardian things to be, but sometimes being a popper and then giving you that Seismic Surge token is, again, very, very relevant as well. So, the question is going to be whether or not Unity will still trigger when you use it to pop, because the resolution doesn't technically happen with the Phantasm. So, I'm going to have to like wait for the rules clarification on that before I go 11.
Well, I think that this does the same thing as the way that rune chants work now with Spectra, where the rune chants still pop. So they do now.
They do now.
So I think that this might be that same thing where it's a when, so you still get the effect when it happens. It's not a whenever.
I mean, I suspect that's the case, but I don't want to go like too ham. Like I'm already at a 10 out of 10 for this card. It's just whether or not this is an 11 or a 12 out of 10. But
you went from 6 to midnight, so I think it's 12. But yeah, so this is an incredible card. I think that this of the 3 that have been spoiled so far, this is the top, and followed by Shiana Spec, which is also bonkers, and the Warrior one is several tiers below it until we know what a Courage does. Then we also get another one. We get what I would assume is a Runeblade one on Wednesday. So on the 31st, Nathan Crawford, who is a noted Runeblade player, will have one that's revealed for us at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So that's another one to look out for. That's where I'm going to be hopefully excited as a Runeblade person.
Would you say you're a Runeblade connoisseur?
Yes, I would say that I am a Runeblade connoisseur, a Runeblade sommelier, as you will.
Somebody who appreciates Runeblades of all shapes and sizes.
Of all shapes and sizes, and the different sort of the different sort of arts with the different colorations.
Yeah, because like not every rune chant looks the same.
Not every rune chant looks the same. They're very different and very different. I can't keep going this. If you know, you know, I guess. We still, as we mentioned before, we have 2 events left in the Realm Brawl Series calendar. There are still RTIs happening kind of everywhere. So check out the Realms website for the dates and times on those and see if there's anything local to you or semi, drivable if you want to go and make sure you can qualify for the 20K in December. So the next one is August 4th through 6th. Hosted with Kayfabe Games in Salt Lake City. So we get a little west of the Mississippi action. That'll be good for people out in those areas. There's a Blitz Super Armory on Friday night at Kayfabe Games. It's a $10 entry for a Super Armory. It's totally reasonable. Everything I've heard about Kayfabe from a lot of the players there, they rave about it. They love it. So if you're going to be in the area, check it out. Also, then like as per normal, there's the Classic Constructed 5K on Saturday that will qualify with as far as I know, still has a PTI attached to it with a gold foil for the winner. And then the top 8 will qualify for the 20K Invitational. Then there's also a Blitz Battle Hardened on Sunday, a 2K Blitz Battle Hardened on Sunday. Again, same story. You can qualify for the 20K tournament via that. And then also the typical Battle Hardened prizing. So gold foil to the winner and a PTI to first and second. So all of that. There will be the traditional after party, speakeasy after party on Saturday night, but the details that are TBD. I'm assuming it's at the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, but I can't confirm. That's I don't know if we're rolling that deep. I will. Darick will not.
Yeah,
be there.
I'm very, very sad because this is the only one of the brawls that I will miss. I'm going to be taking my oldest son to his first ever Gen Con, so I will sadly miss this one.
However, I'm a madman and I'm sick in the head. So I will also be at Gen Con for the Thursday and Friday shenanigans. And then Friday night, I'll be hopping a red eye to Salt Lake City. And then I'll be working with the Realm on Saturday, Sunday, helping them out. But I will be around. So there will always have been a Flesh and Blood presence at every single one of these. And it has to happen. So we're going to make it happen. That's where we're going with this, even though it's at great cost to my mind and body. I guess maybe not the body. I mean, the mind's already broken too. So really it's no cost. We also know now that the Realms 20K Invitational Weekend will be in December in Columbus. So December 1st through 3rd. 20K Invitational starts on Friday. So if you are qualified for the Invitational, that will be day 1 of the Invitational. There is the 5K Brawl as per normal that for 2024 qualification will be on Saturday, followed by the 2K Blitz on Sunday. So again, full slate of events going on, and then the start of the 2024 qualification season. And I have it on good authority that qualifying for the 2024 Invitational is probably something you should be interested in doing.
Yeah.
Very good authority. High authority, one might say.
Not even just because of the already announced higher pricing, but...
No, not just, but the fact that it's $50,000 is dumb already. But although I don't even know if that's announced. Whatever.
I thought it was on Twitter.
Fuck, I don't know. Probably.
Let me check this Discord that I'm in. I'm pretty sure it's the Flesh and Pod Discord where it was mentioned.
There's a Flesh and Pod.
Yeah, there's a
Discord?
Flesh and Pod Discord, and I feel like.
Hold on, let me look into this. I don't
feel
think
like
there is.
Somebody had mentioned it there, but
where?
No, it was Keith just posted back to his website about the Columbus dates.
Yeah, there we go. So I don't even know if that's out there yet.
Is now.
That's not confirmed. We're just gonna say it's not confirmed. It's fine, not confirmed.
Oh, here we go. The pinned tweet on their Twitter 2024 season will end with a 50K tournament. The top 32 of 2023 will get special VIP invite to the 50K next year.
Fine, it's a 50K, but also with the full knowledge that there is more than just $50,000. Sure, that it's more than just a 50K. So, I am highly encouraging all of our friends and fappers to do your level best to qualify for the 2024 Invitational. You'll be well worth your time and money. We still are. We're running the Good Deeds giveaway through this week's. So cutoff, we'll call it June 4th. So make a donation to the free store to the free store online. The link is in the show notes, and each donation will get a promo. So while supplies last, I still have I'm running low, but I still have some to give away. I'm not out. So please, go ahead and make a donation if you're interested. If you're not, no big deal. But we have done a great job so far as a community goes of raising money for a good cause. So I'm very proud of what our little community has been able to do. Put up with some listener questions.
I feel like we should do that. That's actually what I was just looking up, was our awesome listener questions this week, because we actually do have some good ones in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a couple of bangers here. You like the other. Okay. With the conversation popping up about cost of competitive fab, what is your input on the cost of staples, and if you see a problem, what is the step in the right direction that LSS isn't doing? I'll let you go ahead and handle this one first, Darick.
All right. Full stop, I think Flesh and Blood is expensive. So I don't think that you can just say like, oh, this is a cheap or easy hobby to get into right now. I don't think things are okay as is right now. That being said, it's very hard for me to pinpoint anything else that LSS can do without just like destroying their business model. And we do have to remember they are a business as well. They could theoretically put tunics in pre-con decks, or, CNCs in a blitz deck or whatever. Yeah, they could do that. But outside of something like that drastic, they continue to put the chase cards in new sets. They are reprinting them. Like, whenever the competitive fab conversation pops up, there's always people who point to Tunic and they're like, hey, look at the price of Tunic. Obviously, the game is expensive. And you're kind of correct, but you have to remember, this is like Magic being 5 years old and somebody pointing at Black Lotus and saying, look, Black Lotus is expensive. Tunic, whether other people want to admit it or not, is the Black Lotus of Flesh and Blood. Like that's just it. Tunic is the Black Lotus of Flesh and Blood. It's your free resource. It's your staple in any deck you're allowed to play it. It's your like key. It's not key chase card, really. Key card for your deck that, as long as it's legal, people will play it. It's the Black Lotus of Flesh and Blood. So I don't think that like pointing at that and then just being like, hey, the game is expensive is great, because it's always going to be a card that's in demand. And though that card and many other staples like Command and Conquer, like Enlightened Strike, etc., are very expensive, they're in sets that are still available. Tunic is also the most printed card in Flesh and Blood history, right? It is in Welcome to Wrath. It's in the most sets. It's in Crucible, right? We have the Krunic. We have
Arcanite Skullcap is too. Same print.
Well, right, because it has Everfest.
Yeah,
so Dullcap is in Everfest, and then you have History Pack, right? So they're doing, I think, all of the right things outside of just like completely tanking some of the appeal, right? So like I know a lot of people are like, well, you shouldn't cater to collectors, and I also I can feel like I can get on board with some of that sentiment, but there is a reason that it's not a living card game, it's a trading card game, because let's be honest, if you play trading card games, you are probably like all of us, and you've got a bit of a gambling issue, and there is that serotonin hit of you open something and you get something cool, right? Like we want that wow factor when we open packs. And so that's a great feeling, right? You open history pack, you get a tunic, you get a Command and Conquer, you're like, oh yay, like that felt good. So without them just destroying that experience, I don't know what else they can really do other than like keep printing sets with it in there. But again, we've heard any indication that they're going to stop printing history pack right now. It's just kind of an on-demand thing. So it's available. The issue is that we're in this weird spot where the game is growing. There's a lot of demand for these cards, but the people who are getting into the game are all buying singles and nobody's opening the product, right? The number of players joining the game and opening like boxes or cases or whatever of history pack is smaller than the people who are joining and buying singles. So the prices are high because there's not enough in circulation for current demand, and that will go away with time. But that's not something LSS can like fix for us. I think they're doing the right thing. And the problem with that is, and it's not really a problem, or I guess I should say the reason for that is that a lot of the people who are picking up the game are coming from other card games where 9 times out of 10, you're better off buying singles than opening stuff. But I honestly don't think that's the case right now. If you're getting into the game, like brand new, fresh, history pack is filled with bangers that you can open. And even in, again, shout out to the Flesh and Pod Discord, our Discord, we had somebody who was posting, pictures from their 2 boxes. I'm staring right at it. Sprocket, Weekend Pulls, 2 boxes. History pack 1 is fucking cracked. What did they get out of their 2 boxes? Tunic, Art of War, Enlightened Strike, Crater Fist, and a whole shitload of playable Majestics. Like, this is a great picture. So if you're new to the game, this is what you should be potentially doing. Now there is a diminishing returns, but for a certain amount, like you should be buying boxes first and then using singles to fill in your gaps, right? It's just not happening right now. So I think that pricing is a problem. I just don't know what LSS can do about it other than what they're doing, which is saying, hey, all these cards people want, they're available in sets right now.
Yeah, I mean that's the gist of it. So we've discussed back in the before days of with
the better
Jordan
days,
and Abby, where these are pretty good days. I've come around to these being good days. We discussed how a successful trading card game needs the 3 pillars. It needs the financial people, like the people who are the buyers and sellers. It needs the collectors, the hobbyists, and it needs the players. You need all 3. Because if there's no consumer confidence in your game is an LCG, LCG, right? Living card game. And who cares? Your packs are meaningless. Who gives a fuck? You need the collectors to open packs and to gain the collections, and then the extras hit the market, and then the market blossoms. You need the buyers and sellers to create liquidity to keep the cards moving in the direction of the people who need them. You need all 3. Now, to what extent you have to cater to those 3 is up for debate. But if you decide that, you know what, we're going to put Tunic in a pre-con in a $30 pre-con, let's say, you're a white bordered tunic. Like, let's be real here. It's not going to be a black bordered tunic or foil for that matter. You're going to crush consumer confidence in your unlimited printings immediately. And it won't just be tunic. You're crushing all of it. And at that point in time, it becomes meaningless to open history pack, and that's not what they want. That's bad business for them, and it's bad business for the buyers and sellers. History pack becomes useless, meaningless, and they don't want to carry it. Okay. What are you going to do then? And then what happens when, Sink Below becomes $40 because nobody's opening history pack anymore, right? Like, do you want that? Like, there's a precedent to be set, and what they're doing right now, I think, is all they can do, which is, and Darick put it correctly and very, very eloquently, you can only print to demand. You can't sit there and just say, I'm going to flood the market with a bunch of one card because we feel like it. That does not help. And we have seen instances, and I think we're getting close again now, where box EVs have flipped to the point where it's worth opening boxes because the box EV, like the expected value out of a standard box, is worth more than the box sealed. When that pyramid flips, people crack boxes like fiends.
Mm-hmm.
So that churn, again, keeps turning. It keeps turning. Like right now, you can buy it. I think that, I have to double check right now, but last I looked, which was very recent, you could buy a tunic for $200 or less. Okay. Like 8 weeks ago, finding one for under $280 was virtually impossible. So when those little flips happen, you see some movement in market. But if you think that 180 or 200 is still too expensive, that's fair. I get it. But there are alternatives in most cases to playing it. And while it's optimized for competitive play, it's hard to say whether it's the Black Lotus or something. There's something other that's analogous, but because like the Fableds kind of feel more that way for collectability purposes.
For collectability, sure, but the reason that I say that it's the Black Lotus is because Black Lotus is a card that in every deck that you are allowed to run it, you run it. That's not the case with the Fables.
Absolutely.
So if you were ever going to play in any format where Black Lotus existed, like you're probably stuck trying to figure out how to chase it down. If you're going to play in any format in Flesh and Blood where Tunic exists, now for the most part, you're probably going to want it. Now I say for the most part because the other thing LSS has done, and this is the other piece of the puzzle, is they've actually done a really good job of creating meaningful choice in the chest slot. I call it Tunic tension, right? Not every class wants to run Tunic all of the time. Some classes don't want to run it at all. But even in the cases where like Tunic is an option, it's not necessarily always the best option. Assassin, I think, is a great example right now because most assassins are playing Tunic and it's probably the right choice. But as Ultim leaves and as people start experimenting with more like fatigue contract versions, having the extra piece of armor that can potentially be recurring might end up being something that you consider. And we have seen, people switch between Tunic and Illusionist chess pieces and, Tunic and Draconic chess pieces and whatever based on matchups and metas and so forth. So that is another thing through design, right? Not through market stuff, but just through design that LSS is also doing well, I think, right now.
No, I agree. And like off the top of my head, I've got Carrion Husk, Tectonic Plating, Courage of Bladehold, Aether Ironweave, and even in some instances, Heart and Crosstrap. And
I was just going to say Blossom of Spring in Blitz, where the game might not go 3
it's
turns.
It's actually just
better than Tunic sometimes. Absolutely.
Outside of Runeblade, like Runeblade would still plays Aether Ironweave all the time in Blitz because it blocks and then gives you resources. So that one's kind of a no-brainer. And like I was playing Briar this weekend. The only time that I put Tunic in was against Guardian. The rest of the time it doesn't matter. Like I want the one block, and then I need the 2 resources. Like it's going to give me more value than the Tunic ever will in those games because they're not long enough for me to get value out of Tunic in those games. It's the same card at pretty much at minimum,
right?
And so both are, granted, both are in the list, but again, it's effectively the Tunic is there just for Guardian. And if Icelander was a thing, I would have Tunic in against that too. Next one's from Greg, and this is in all caps, but I'm not going to read it like it's in all caps. Why no Aria border in new Bravo spec? Then the parentheses is, this has really been grinding my gears. Again, this is a charmer
Right. So
question.
I have one potentially real answer, and then one that I don't think is the actual answer, but I would find it very, very funny and comedic if it was the case. So what I think is potentially the real answer is that it could also like just be that it's not finalized. A lot of times with some of these spoiler images, things can change, right? This could have just been something that was in their system, and maybe it doesn't go to print this way. Maybe that's the case. If that's not the case, then I don't know why this one is not specifically the Aria border like the other Bravo specializations are. However, my comedic answer to that is that since the star of the show was Living Legend, maybe there's going to be some sort of like nod to the fact that he's been stripped of his elemental powers and he's just back to being regular old Guardian Bravo. Now, I know that's not the case because this is also very clearly a reference to Star of the Show, right? It's Starstruck. Again, the art, very awesome. It's like a glowing fist as he's just cracking a dude in the face.
It's the crippling crush fist.
I honestly think this was meant to be a big time like Star of the Show card from a design standpoint, because they have said publicly like they didn't expect Bravo Star of the Show to be as, you know, successful and rampant as he was, because at the time in their internal testing, he just was, you know, not as dominating.
They had never heard of a hypergeometric.
Well, no, the problem was that some of the decks that he was playing against internally at the time,
Cheerios, Briar,
right? Yeah, the bands and things like that were not. The errata on Briar wasn't there, et cetera, et cetera. So like the power level was off. And anyway, the point here is that it's, in my opinion, I think it's very clear that this was meant to be printed while Starvo was still around. This is supposed to be a reference to new Starvo. So it's all likely that this was meant to have an Aria border. In my mind, it's a reference to him. But it would be really funny to me if this was a nod of like, yeah, this was supposed to be a Starvo card, but since he's not around, you know, you get generic Guardian border because that's all you have is generic Bravo now.
Sorry, and not to shit on your parade though, but the Dorinthia specialization does not have the salon.
Yeah, I noticed that. I saw, because somebody mentioned that in our Discord as well. The only one that matches right now is the Shiana one, so I don't.
It's the shapeshifter border, which is class.
So yeah, I don't know. The only other thing I can think of as well is that maybe they did something specific with this to call attention to the Unity mechanic.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that's also.
Or maybe these are the regular ones, and we're getting like. Now I'm going to conspiracy theorist. Maybe we're getting Marvels of each of the Unity cards that have the better proper borders and cool get-ups or whatever. And these are meant to look more vanilla.
Yeah, maybe.
On purpose.
Okay. Last question, and I don't know why I'm indulging this, but I'm going to. Dom asked, and for reference, the picture that he showed alongside this question was a picture of a promotion that existed for MTG Arena, where they had put advertisements of the planeswalkers, which are heroes effectively, in Magic on the boxes of Hot Pockets. Hot Pockets. Right. Unlock exclusive in-game content with purchase in a freezer section near you. What a great, great ad. What would be the Flesh and Blood equivalent of this sponsorship?
So
probably a meat product of some sort.
That's what you're going to go with, a meat product?
Well, Flesh and Blood.
Okay.
I mean, makes sense to me. So like maybe but the blood parts, like maybe a brisket.
I was going to say like Omaha steaks, so you can eat them like medium
Omaha
rare.
steaks is great. Yeah.
So
sounds fine.
My knee-jerk reaction for like a real answer would have been something chip oriented, like a Doritos or a Ruffles, where every flavor of chip can be paired with whatever hero you think would eat that chip, like,
oh, then Bravo's all dressed.
Right.
Okay,
and then
that
like
makes
Fi
sense.
is like the spicy hot version of whatever, blah, blah, blah. But my comedic fun answer to this is going to be like a Lowe's or a Home Depot. And then you're going to have your Bravo hammer. And then like Briar would be something in the gardening section. And Dorinthia Iron Song would be, I don't know, something where you're buying like iron rebar or something,
Sure. Oh boy. Thanks for that brilliant. Oh, sorry, the follow-up. I might as well put the follow-up in there because why not? Follow-up. How many wrappers of Sugar Daddy candy do we need to send in for a new fat playmat? Fuck you. That's how many. No, absolutely not. It stopped at like 33 messages. So I think we're in the clear. However, Darick did may have the mistake of putting token in one of his tweets, and immediately the crypto bots showed up. So,
well,
gets us all.
Token for me, Sugar Daddy for you.
None of this sounds good. Like, all of this sounds very, very bad.
Yes.
So we should probably get out of here while we still can, and before we say something so out of pocket that we actually figured out that we could.
I mean, I don't know what you would think I would say other than so.
I really hope nobody's good at lip reading. Okay.
You know who would get that? My wifey.
Your wifey. We're gonna go and give our patrons. I can't fucking believe you. I am going to give the patron.
You're gonna give the what?
I'm trying to decide.
Patreon?
I'm trying to decide if I actually need to edit that out or not. That's the hardest part.
It's fine, dude. It's just my wife. It's not a big deal.
I love Soph.
She really is the best.
So our associate producers are Andy, Kenny, and May. Our executive producers on up are C-Dubs, Nick D, Josh, Lance Goodthrust, still my favorite, Matt Tutees, Popo Mike, Rich Kapinski, Alex Thomas. Welcome to the fold. Ed, Philip, Taylor, and Trevor. Looks like Ed, Philip, and Taylor. You will be receiving your new Flesh and Pod playmat in the mail soon. I did get them in, so I'll be getting those out to the people who are still current and have been for greater than 6 months on that level of Patreon. So if you are interested in becoming a patron of Flesh and Pod, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Link will be in the show notes. There are, I don't know, how many levels. We'll be adding a couple, I think, soon with some potential integration with the Realm. And so exciting stuff, I guess, for somebody coming soon. So be on the lookout for that. You can also just email us at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at fleshpod. There's also a link in our show notes for the Discord that you can come, and it gets even more out of pocket there, so you might as fucking well. Darick, where can they find you?
I am that.
Please don't.
Charm3R on Twitter. So it's Charmer, but with a 3 for the E. I'm Charmer on Twitch, Charmer on YouTube. I'm also like that Charmer on most other social media platforms. I do stuff there. Like I'll post to Instagram and TikTok occasionally, but Twitter's the one I use the most because it forces me to be succinct and terse, and I tend to be long-winded, much to Logan's detriment.
Not delight, actually.
Depends. Like right now, he's killing me inside. I can feel it. But I will say, you can also find me doing a new promotion soon. MTG had Hot Pockets. We have Hot Out of Pocket here for Flesh and Pod.
Nope. We don't. We sure don't.
Are you sure about that killing me inside bit where you were saying no like 30 seconds ago?
I'm allowed to reconsider my position. You can find me on Twitter at Logan Peterson. I basically shit post. I don't think I do anything else anymore. You can also find me in the Discord. Pretty active in there. I'm also the person that is behind the FleshPod Twitter. So if you're getting anything from me, I keep it tonally a bit different than my personal, but it's still me. So feel free to reach out that way as well. DMs are open, but if I keep getting more sugar daddy bots, I'm gonna probably have to shut that down. Should never have announced that. Well, guess I'm getting a bunch of messages. Yep. I don't think I have anything else. Do you got anything else, Darick? I mean, I have a bed that's waiting for me, but
I mean, I got plenty more, but we got to have more content next week. So
we do need more content next week because you never know when the content pipe is going to get turned on. Okay, I need to fucking stop. That's probably going to get bad too. Okay, we're just going to get out of here. Thank you everybody for listening. We will see you all next week. Bye.